Nadi and Nakem were twin sisters who lived in the village of Amuoba. They were as close as two people could be, always together, always laughing and sharing secrets. Nadi was the older twin by a few minutes, and she always felt responsible for her sister, Nakem, who was more quiet and gentle. They lived with their mother, Mama Ifoma, in a small hut near the edge of the village. Their father had died when they were very young, leaving Mama Ifoma to raise them alone. Every day, the twins would go to the river to fetch water or help their mother with the chores around the house. The people of Amuoba loved the twins for their kindness and the way they always helped those in need. But as much as they were loved, there was something strange about the twins. They both had dreams that felt very real, dreams about a place deep in the forest where a dark cave waited. They never talked about these dreams to anyone, not even to each other, but the dreams never left their minds. One day, a young man named Ike came to the village. He was strong and handsome, and he quickly became friends with the twins. Ike was different from the other young men in the village. He was adventurous and curious, always asking questions about the old stories and the mysteries of the forest. The twins liked Ike, especially Nakem, who found herself blushing whenever he smiled at her. As the days passed, Ike began to spend more time with the twins, and soon it became clear that he was in love with Nakem. Nadi noticed the way Ike looked at her sister and how Nakem's eyes sparkled when he was near. But even though she was happy for them, something inside Nadi felt uneasy. The dreams about the cave grew stronger, more vivid, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. One evening, as the sun was setting, Ike came to the twins' hut with an excited look on his face. "I heard a story from the old men in the village," he said. "They spoke of a cave deep in the forest, a cave that no one dares to enter. They say it's haunted by the spirits of those who were lost long ago." Nakem's eyes widened. "The Agbanike cave," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Yes, that's the one," Ike said. "I want to see it. I want to find out if the stories are true." Nadi felt a cold shiver run down her spine. "We should not go there," she said firmly. "The cave is dangerous. People who enter it never return." But Ike only laughed. "Those are just old tales to scare children," he said. "I don't believe in ghosts or spirits. It's just a cave, nothing more." Nakem looked at her sister, her eyes full of worry. "Maybe Nadi is right," she said softly. "We shouldn't go." But Ike was determined. "I'm going tomorrow," he said. "And I want you to come with me, Nakem." Nakem hesitated, looking from Ike to Nadi. She didn't want to disappoint Ike, but she also didn't want to disobey her sister. Finally, she nodded slowly. "All right, I'll come." Nadi felt her heart sink. She wanted to protect her sister, to keep her safe, but she knew that Nakem had made up her mind. "If you're going, then I'm coming too," she said, her voice steady. The next morning, the three of them set out early. The forest was thick and dark, the trees towering above them like silent giants. As they walked, Nadi's unease grew stronger. The forest felt different today, as if it was watching them, waiting. After hours of walking, they finally reached the entrance of the cave. It was a gaping black hole in the side of a hill, the darkness inside so thick that it seemed to swallow the light. Ike took a step forward, but Nadi grabbed his arm. "We should turn back," she said, her voice shaking. But Ike shook her off gently. "Don't be afraid," he said. "We'll be fine." Nakem took Nadi's hand and squeezed it. "We'll be careful," she promised. Together, they entered the cave. The air inside was cold and damp, and the only sound was the drip of water echoing off the stone walls. They walked deeper and deeper, the darkness pressing in around them. Nadi's heart was pounding in her chest, her fear growing with every step. Suddenly, Ike stopped. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. They all listened, and there it was, a faint, eerie whisper, like the wind blowing through the trees. But they were deep inside the cave, and there was no wind. The whispering grew louder, filling the air with a strange, haunting melody. Nakem clutched Nadi's arm, her face pale. "Let's go back," she said, her voice barely audible. But before they could move, the ground beneath them shifted, and the floor of the cave gave way. They screamed as they fell, tumbling down into the darkness. Nadi reached out for Nakem, but her sister's hand slipped from her grasp, and she was swallowed by the black void. When Nadi woke up, she was lying on cold stone, her head pounding. She sat up, her eyes struggling to adjust to the darkness. "Nakem! Ike!" she called, her voice echoing through the cave. There was no answer. Nadi's heart raced as she searched the darkness, but there was no sign of her sister or Ike. Panic surged through her, and she scrambled to her feet, her hands trembling. She had to find them, had to get out of this place. But as she turned to search for a way out, she heard it again, the whispering. It was louder now, closer, and it filled her mind with a chilling sense of dread. Nadi knew that this was no ordinary cave. The stories were true. The cave was haunted, and it wanted something from her. The whispering grew louder, more insistent, and Nadi felt herself being drawn deeper into the cave. She tried to resist, but her feet moved on their own, taking her further into the darkness. The air grew colder, and she could feel the presence of something watching her, something ancient and powerful. And then, she saw it. A faint light flickered in the distance, and Nadi hurried towards it. As she got closer, she saw that the light was coming from a small chamber deep within the cave. Inside the chamber, there was a pool of water, its surface shimmering with an eerie glow. Nedi's breath caught in her throat as she saw her sister, Nkem, standing by the edge of the pool. She was staring into the water, her eyes wide and unblinking. Nkem! Nadi cried, rushing to her side. But Nkem didn't move. She seemed to be in a trance, her gaze fixed on something beneath the water. Nadi grabbed her sister's arm, but it was like touching cold stone. Nkem, wake up! We have to get out of here! Suddenly, Nkem turned to face her, and Nadi gasped. Her sister's eyes were glowing with a strange, unnatural light, and her face was twisted into a mask of terror. It's too late, Nkem whispered, her voice not her own. The cave has us now. Nadi stumbled back, her mind reeling with fear and confusion. What are you talking about? We have to leave. But Nkem only shook her head. You don't understand. The cave is alive. It feeds on fear, on the souls of those who enter. It won't let us go. Tears filled Nedi's eyes as she reached out for her sister. Nkem, please. We have to try. But before she could touch her, the ground beneath them rumbled, and the walls of the cave began to close in. The whispering grew louder, almost deafening, and the light from the pool flared, blinding Nadi with its brightness. And then, everything went dark.